Hey guys, so in this video we are going to talk about messing up really badly. So let's get into it. Now, why am I making this video? Well, you see, I'm making this video because I have this thing that's starting to happen on the channel, which, I mean, it's great. Honestly, it's great fun for me and my ego, but it's also a really bad thing. Now, let me elaborate a little bit. So, you see, as things kind of progress and more people are taking an interest in this silly little channel of mine, I have this phenomenon that comes around, and I suppose that this is what happens for people when they get too big for their own britches, where you have all these people are like they show their appreciation. And guys, I'm very flattered. You should know that. Like, even like, you have no idea how unreal it feels to me that there are actually people actually watching my videos at all. Like, I know I've said this a few times before, but I can't, like, I don't know what to say. But what happens also is that a lot of people show their appreciation, and once again, I'm very grateful that they show that appreciation, but I'm a little bit concerned that it might go to the point where people start to think that I'm some type of, like, all-knowing type of person that, you know, that I don't mess up, because there was this one subscriber who told me that it seems that I never make any mistakes, and I want to kill that right now. I want to kill that immediately, and that's why I'm making this video. I'm going to tell you about I'm not going to tell you about every single fuck up I've ever made when it comes to software development, but I'll talk about the really big ones and like what actually happened when I mess up, like for real mess up. So let's start at my first company. The biggest time as I can remember where I fucked up really bad at my first company was like I was working on an algorithm. Like, the product itself was a salary management system for a small business owner, and I was in charge of managing the salary, basically the calculations and the interface and the product part. Like, there were several modules to the product, and my responsibility was the salary part. There were invoicing and stuff of that nature as well in the other modules. And the thing that made, like, I had been working for, I think, this is me being a junior. This was my first job before I got out, like when I literally just got out into the workforce, right? And I had been working for several weeks, and I was very uncomfortable with some of the Git commands for version control, right? And I've been working, and then I realized that I needed to run, like, I was messing around with this script that was going to help me out with doing a little bit of a data migration job. And I accidentally basically ruined 2 weeks worth of code. Like, literally, it was just gone. I ran this script and it was gone. And now you're thinking, oh, no worries, right? You can just use Git to get all that code back. Well, yeah, but see, I had been working for 2 weeks on all this code, right, without saving it. No commits for 2 weeks worth of work. It was just gone. So I had to start over, right? That was one really major fuck up. Another great fuck up at that same company was that, hey, I actually got I literally had not taken into account that this was back in the days where I was using Node.js, and for those of you out there who know Node.js and JavaScript and so forth, you're going, are you serious? You were managing salaries and money calculations, because it was like we were syncing up against the revenue office and the tax offices, like their APIs and so forth. You were doing that in JavaScript, and I kind of go, yeah, we were. And you can imagine how, like, the only thing that made this even feasible, like today, like the company is still running and they're doing great, as I've heard, and I'm very happy for them. They moved everything, thank God, over to C# and like something more suited for that sort of organization. But as you can imagine, I had made an implementation of different tax calculation functions basically, and they were basically wrong. and we didn't have any unit test or anything like this. There was a small startup, so we didn't have anything like that. And so literally the product for the longest time was showing the incorrect calculations to our customers. And that's all me. And it was because I was a complete junior in charge of something that I was really not an expert at all. Like I'm not an expert in finance or taxes. Like I literally sat there as a junior developer, and you can kind of discuss whether or not this was a smart move on my boss's side. I don't know, but that's what was literally what the job was about. I sat there and I tried to skim through, and basically I had to try to be an accountant and read up on all the stuff on the Revenue Office website. Like that's what I did. So like, thank God I'm not there anymore, because I did a really shitty job at that. Like there were things I did right, but that part I did absolutely horribly. And then I moved over to my job at Ticketmaster, where one of the biggest fuck-ups I think I've ever done. Like I did 2 major fuck-ups at that company. I'm very lucky that the impact wasn't all that great. One of the things that I did was that I was working on one of their main features, one of the map API for picking a seat and so forth. And the legacy code was so horrendous, and I had virtually been placed in charge of trying to somehow refactor this and migrate it over to React. And I had that into my head that, okay, maybe I can fix this and improve this legacy code a little bit, because it was a nested mess of JavaScript basically. And I made the big mistake of trying to refactor, to make a serious attempt at refactoring the largest part of that system. And I did so before a release. And so my QA department, like the people who from the QA department basically come over and tell me that, Fredrik, you broke the seat map. And this is it's discovered in the QA section of our release cycle basically. And I kind of just sat there and I'm like, okay, I'll try to fix it. And it ended up with me trying to basically skim through, I think, a week or 2 weeks worth of work to figure out why my code wasn't working. And this was like a few hours before we were supposed to release. If I didn't fix it, we literally couldn't release that week or like that sprint because of something that I did. I completely blocked everything. And I'm just gonna be honest, like it felt absolutely horrible. The stress was enormous. And this other time I had this situation where we were in charge of doing the releasing of the main product, basically to the main website. And the way that we were doing it at the time, I don't know if it's changed today. I hope they have made it more streamlined. But the way it worked was that we would literally use our terminals to with access tokens and so forth to get into the production environments and basically just run commands inside of the shell in order to to do our stuff right. And that process was very complicated, at least per my perspective, and it was very error prone. And by mistake, I literally pulled down, by mistake, I pulled down the 2 main clusters that ran the whole application at the same time. Now, luckily for me, the operations people, because we were in this state of transition from one department of operations people owning the responsibility for running the product going over to us as the developers doing the DevOps thing. So what they had done, thank God, was that they had made a default behavior so that if both clusters went down at the same time, they had a configuration so that the traffic would just keep on moving as usual. Because here's Fredrik, who literally just kind of loses, starts pulling down one cluster and by mistakes doesn't realize that he's now over on the other cluster doing the same thing without pulling up the first cluster. So I bring down the whole application. And when my boss comes over and he's completely Fredrik, what's happened? It says that we've been down for 6 minutes because that's what the reporting system said. We didn't know that the fallback was there. I just sat there and completely panicked. You can imagine it from my perspective. Imagine being the guy, I wasn't alone. Thank God, we were talking to the operations people later, and apparently it's not the first time this has happened, but for me, who's a fairly junior person, imagine the sensation of feeling like, oh yeah, I brought down one of the world's largest ticketing site for 6 minutes. Do you have? If it wasn't that bad, but that's what it looked like when I was in that situation. Can you imagine how much money that would have been? Like we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. It was like, the worst part was that I was like, that was at the end of the workday, so I went home, got back the day after, and then I kind of talked to the operations people and said that it was fine. It hadn't impacted them. But I went to sleep completely convinced that this was like, it was it. Like this is me. This is me. Basically, it's done now. Like it's over for me. And just the other day at the company that I'm working at today, I had released a story with a new feature. And basically I had missed, like we had 2 different projects, a front-end section of the project, and we have a back-end server side. And I had been so busy working on multiple things that when it was time to release that story, I had only released one part, the front-end, like the user-facing interface in our release pipeline. So it was shown to all our users, and they clicked in a checkbox making different orders, right? But I hadn't clicked the button for releasing the backend. I had forgotten about it in all the chaos of working. And so for a few days, we've had several customers who's been trying to make an order for a specific item, and they haven't been able to, they've sent the order, but the system hadn't registered that it's actually been sent, like that it hasn't registered anything. When I went to, because of course you always go and check your feature when it's out in production. I had checked it and everything looked fine on the interface, but hey, sloppy little Frederick hasn't checked that when you actually place the order that something is happening. So this is what I want you to take away from this guy. I'm far from the perfect coder. I am truly not a perfect software developer. I'm still learning, just as you guys most likely are, or if you're a super senior person. I'm just trying to get to where you seniors are. And all I'm doing is trying my best to get as good as I can over time. But I want you, the juniors out there, to know this. Although I might know a little bit more than you about certain things, I'm still not like the best software developer out there. And fucking up it's part of the job description. Everybody fucks up. Absolutely everybody. Me included. So I want you to remember that if you see, not everything that I show you on this channel is going to be perfect. Not everything I say is going to be perfect, because I'm not perfect. And all you can, I can give you some advice that I try to take to heart. When you mess up, and you're gonna mess up, feel shitty about it, because you're gonna feel shitty about it. Beat yourself up, feel sorry for yourself, have a drink or something, and then just feel bad for a few days, and then suck it up and start over again. That's really all you can do. Because the worst thing is, don't let it break you. Like, I've had really rough days. The days that I'm describing to you now are some of the roughest days in my career. And I made it through them because I love what I do and I want to get good at it. And although I feel really shitty about messing up that bad, I can't let it break me. And I don't want you to be broken by the mistakes that you make. Just keep on pushing. Have a great day.